Started working in metal over 15 years ago. I've been doing this full-time for 15 years, and I started by collecting a lot of metal parts. I wanted a lifestyle change. I wanted to be home with my two girls, and that's what I just started doing. Taught myself how to weld. There was no YouTube videos when I started 15 years ago, so learned by error and terror. And and started selling things in the stores, started selling things to my neighbors, and just started really having fun with what I was doing. Now it's become such a passion that the parts are telling me what they are. I don't have to worry about making certain pieces to sell certain things. It's everything tells me what it's going to be, and so it's a treasure going into work every day and deciding not what I want to do, but the pieces tell me what it's going to be, and it's by the end of the day I have a sculpture created, and it's amazing for me to be able to do that. My girls grew up and moved out, and working at home out of necessity ended up becoming the love that I do now. I don't need to do this. I love to do this, and this is one of my special pieces. This is one of my mermaids, and the mermaids progressed over the years, and they've become multi-layered, multifaceted, and very decorated. In some of the backs of these now, I actually flip them over and I weld on the back, and that happened by accident, just because when I would turn a piece over to clear spray it, and I would look at what the back looked like, the back almost looked more beautiful than the front. So you've got all the discoloration and the heat, the bluing and the graying on the metal. So that accident I started using in my work as well, so I would flip it around and weld from the back to the front, so it looks like she's hennaed or tattooed in the background as well. Sometimes I'll add I'll cut up strips of oil drums and different colors like blues and greens. I'll add stainless steel. They all have different colorations in the metals that I'm choosing. Sometimes I'll weld a little three-dimensional crab on here and just add all different kinds of things that I find. Even going to the thrift stores and finding used jewelry or broken pieces and stuff like that. Everything that I find kind of has a purpose, and it goes on to these pieces. So whether it's a flat piece like this or a sculptural piece, everything I work with is what's found. This new metal here, of course, is new because I do so many of these. I wouldn't be able to find this gauge of metal, but all the dysfunctional pennies now that we're just not using anymore, all discontinued. That's the treasure for me, is not finding the parts when I need them, because that's an impossibility as an artist, right? I really find that if I have all my parts sorted and all the bins sorted, it's far easier for me when I know what I'm actually doing. When the piece tells me what it is, I can just go to all my different separate parts bins and pick out everything that I need and turn it around, put it upside down, drop it on the floor, see it differently, and everything. It happens by accident, but it's happening like I understand when writers are writing a book. They say it writes themselves, and I totally understand that, because now I'm at a stage in my artwork where that's what it does for me. And I just find it's a beautiful gift, and it's amazing. And when I don't try get involved, when I just kind of take care of what's in front of me, that's when the magic happens. When I try force something, it doesn't work anywhere near as well as just kind of the flow, and you lose track of time completely. And it's just amazing going through all these different parts, especially a lot of the parts are antique parts. And so you're finding things that people don't even know what these things are anymore, or what their use was of these pieces. And it's a beautiful thing to bring it out and use it again in another life. So that's a little bit about what I do. I love pieces to be moving, so if ever I've got a piece that spins or turns, or it's got a handle or something on it, I've got a piece with an old clock from 1950s that plugs in, and it actually still works and still keeps time. So I'll make things that actually still turn. So if I have a dog, I'll maybe use a bearing somewhere in the neck so that the head can turn. And these are things, usually when you're dealing with artwork, you're not touching. You're kind of a hands-off thing, but a lot of my artwork, other than it possibly being sharp and heavy, it's these are little mysteries that you find as you become more involved with a piece. You've got little things that you'll find will turn, or a head will turn, or maybe a little paw will have like a little hinge in a couple of the joints so it moves. And I find those things, it kind of gives me more pleasure and it gives me the enjoyment. What I do doesn't feel like a job because these things are all just secrets that I find out for myself as well. And it's wonderful when I go and do shows and I see people noticing these things as well, and they find that something moves. And quite often it's the children that find it, which is amazing. So I always say, like, absolutely. And did you know this works? And the little crab pinchers got the little pliers that still open, and it's a wonderful thing when you see families bring their kids out and they can see these things, and kids are finding things they weren't expecting, and you see people smiling because they're seeing things that they weren't expecting. It's a nice surprise, and it's a really nice reward for me. Working alone and creating alone to actually put a large group of work together and to take it to a show and kind of sit back a little bit off to the side and see all the feedback and look at all the responses and the laughing and, you know, just when people are actually getting things, because sometimes there's different levels of humor in the pieces that people are looking at as well. That's a gift for me, and it's a beautiful reward for me, because working at home, a lot of artists are working in their shop or wherever you are, you don't get that until you're out in the public, so being in the public is very rewarding. So my business is called Mermaid Welding, and when I first started welding, I had no idea what I was going to do. So I started just cutting out shapes and having fun, and I made a mailbox because I went to go get the mail, and I thought, you know what, this mailbox is so boring. I'm an artist. I just can't live like this. So I made myself a really funky mailbox. And the next thing I did, and I'd recently moved to Victoria, the next thing I did is I thought, well, what do I want to make for me? Because making the mailbox was fun because it was for me. And I thought, you know what, I live in Victoria. I live like 5 minutes from the ocean. I would love to make myself a mermaid for my front yard. So I made a big, huge, beautiful standing mermaid. And she had long hair and she had all things intertwined, and it was stunning. But I couldn't put it in the garden because I didn't have anything to mount it on, and I wanted it freestanding, and so I didn't know what to do with it. So I went back to the beach and I found this amazing piece of driftwood that looked like a seat. So what I did, because of the fragility of her, is I actually bent her sitting down so it looked like she was posing, right, on this piece of driftwood. And it was absolutely fantastic because I then listed my house for sale, and I sold mailboxes and mermaids to all these people who were coming through to take a look at my house that was for sale. And I just thought, you know what, I have something here. And the thing is, when you do something for yourself, that's the thing that you need to do, and that's not what a lot of people do. So when I did what I loved, the reward in that came back to me tenfold. So then I started putting these pieces, repeating these pieces and putting them in local shops and galleries and things like that. I had then renamed my business, and because I had this huge mermaid in my front yard, I called myself Mermaid Welding. And 15 years later, people don't know me as my name, Karen Lancey. They know me as the Metal Mermaid. And so when people greet me or people talk to me online, it's always mermaid, right? It's always mermaid. And so taking that one step farther, I was doing all different sizes and different kinds of metal and just cutting things out of big drums, sometimes too, or big pieces of stainless steel. I've done a large 3D mermaid for the front of my house, which is called the Mermaid Beach House. I've got a big copper mermaid wind spinner on top of the house. That's just become my thing. It's become my nemesis. I do little copper ones and then put the chemicals on them. It's just something that I do now. It's something I won't let go of. It's part of my branding. It's part of my business name. And wherever I go, wherever I travel around the world, I always take pictures of mosaic tile mermaids on the floors or the sculptures that are out in the ocean on a stone. It's become me. It's become who I am. I brought it into my home. It's my business, and now it's me. So it's all consuming and all encompassing. Yeah, that's my story.